Happy Sunday. Bye.
It's not Happy Sunday. It's Sunday. Happy Sunday. And we missed Valentine's Day.
That was last week.
We forgot Valentine's is yours. Speak one.
Are you done? Tell them bye.
There's a house. There's a snake in my boot.
There's a snake in your boot.
Who wants those cats? Is your back? Beastman? Two X-Men? You want Beastman? X-Men?
Beastman or X-Man?
X. Here's that gorgeous. We can go on this with names.
Okay, tell them bye.
You know who Batman's favorite?
Who is Batman's favorite?
Joker.
Joker.
Because he attacks him.
He attacks them. Okay.
You want to be over and over again. Happy Valentine's Day.
Very good. Tell them bye.
And
Say see you next week.
see you next week.
Okay, go. Go. Bye. See you later. Go.
See you later.
All right. Today we're going to continue on with our people at the cross of Jesus, the people who were there at the crucifixion. And today we are talking about Simon of Cyrene. And I guess I had never really paid attention to this part when I was studying it, so this was new to me. But I want to read what the book that I'm using says about Simon, and then we'll get into the actual lesson. It says, the list of cruelties associated with Roman crucifixion is endless. Some of these cruelties are obvious. Others are not, such as the way the soldiers forced the victims to participate in their own execution by making them carry their own crosses to the place where they would be killed. Jesus of Nazareth suffered emotional strain and severe physical abuse before he began the long uphill march to Calvary. Before long, he collapsed under the weight of his crossbeam and was forced to relinquish it to another. The second crossbearer happened to be Simon, a man from Cyrene, who, passing through Jerusalem on that day, stumbled upon this gloomy procession to the place of the skull. It is clear that at the time, Simon did not know what all of this meant. Eventually, the significance of his compulsory service would come to him, and his life would be changed. Jesus has always been a burden bearer. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. But those who were in Jerusalem on the weekend he was crucified remember when the roles were reversed and someone bore a burden for him. It is only natural to want to return the favor of redemption. Christ did so much for us. Did anyone do anything to lighten his load? Looking back, all we find is Simon's small service. It wasn't a heavy burden, nothing in comparison to the weight of the sins of the world. 75, maybe 100 pounds. There was nothing more that sinful man could do. So that is how we're going to start off talking about Simon. He was, in a nutshell, the one who carried Jesus' cross. The one who was there when Jesus couldn't physically do what he needed to do. And that kind of goes back a little, I don't want to say history, but I guess it's history, a little back story, back information. It says, in those times, people were forced to carry their own cross to the crucifixion. So when you were going to be crucified, you had to take your own cross. You walked to the place with it on your back. They did this not just, okay, Paula, you're going to die tomorrow. Here's your cross. You're going to carry it. No, they're going to beat me first. They're going to do some type of scourging. And the scourging was a whip. Some of them used bone fragments, pieces of bone. Some used metal. It's on the end of this whip, And they use it, and it's sharp, it's got points, and they use it to beat the victim. Every lash they get, it cut open the skin. It broke away the skin. It dug into the skin. And the whole point of this scourging was to weaken the person. And the person was weakened through shock and blood loss. Now, the Roman official, the Romans who were doing this, was up to them how long they did this. They had to stop at 40 lashes. They stopped at 39 in case they miscounted. But if you had a nice Roman official who just, wanted to be there for the glory, saying, hey, I hit somebody, they may only hit you 5 times. But in Jesus' case, they did up to 39. And it's not just 39 and you stop. It's 39 to how many people are there to beat you, to whip you. I mean, obviously, Jesus was hated. There were so many people out. They were just jealous. They wanted to get revenge. And so they beat them. And there's another reason, and I never thought of it this way. I just think of Jesus hanging onto the cross. You're there. And to me, in my mind, it's always quick, bam, bam, bam. Because sometimes I fall in the trap of when I read the Bible, it's paragraph, paragraph, it happened, bam, 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 bam. And we know when we read that sometimes things take days, months, years. We're going through this in Elizabeth's school. We're talking about wandering in the wilderness. And I have to keep explaining to her, okay, just because we read it on Monday, when we read on Tuesday, a lot of years happen between Monday and Tuesday. And that has made me think more when I'm doing this devotional that you got to think about it's not bam, bam, bam. So they put you on the cross. He didn't immediately die. It's not like 5 minutes later he was dead. So another reason they do the scourging is because if you're a strong person, you're healthy, you're fit, you could last several days hanging on the cross. You're not going to die just like that. Well, if you're out in the wilderness, you're out in nature, I don't say wilderness, you're out in nature, you're hanging on this cross, there's going to be some issues, isn't there? The longer this body stays on the cross, you're exposed to wild animals, you're exposed to insects, you're exposed to birds. And when I was doing this, it made me think about when you're driving on the road, what happens when there's a dead animal? You see the big birds coming, you see animals eating it because it's dead meat, right? I never thought about if you're hanging on a cross, how much torture would that be if you're alive and you've got animals? At night, what if a lion comes and finds you? What if you have a bear? During the day, it's hot. You're sweating, and all the gnats, all the flies, and you're hanging there and you can't get rid of them. So this is exactly why they beat you, they scourge you so you don't suffer that. You're gonna die quicker. It is bad enough to be crucified, but could you imagine, like I just said, the animal finding you at night, bugs all over you, and you couldn't do anything about it. So since you were already in a weakened state, you shouldn't last that long hanging on a cross. And that's why they do it. And we also know from Isaiah 52:14 that Jesus suffered the harshest treatment. And that verse says his appearance was so marred beyond human semblance. They beat him so bad, you could not tell he was a human anymore. The flesh on his back, it just reminds me of dog meat, just ground up dog meat. You could not tell it was a human back. Bones were exposed. Super, super harsh. And this is what Jesus did. So they did this to him, and that's not all they did. After they got done beating him, they began mocking him. Then they put a purple cloak on him. Then they put the crown of thorns on his head. Then they struck him with a reed, and they spit on him. Total humiliation. Total humiliation. Jesus went through all of this for us, never said a word, never cried out, didn't do anything. He did it for us. And when I was doing this devotional, and I thought about it, and I will be completely honest, the question I asked myself was, would I even consider going through this for somebody else? And my gut instinct would be no. Then when you think about it, is there somebody in your life that you would be beaten for. Beaten so bad, you don't even look like a human anymore. Then you're being mocked. You're spit on. You're being humiliated. Would you do that for somebody? Jesus did it for us. Would we do it for somebody else? And then it doesn't stop there. They did all this. Obviously, he's not able to carry his cross. He's still expected to carry his cross. And we're going up the hill to where his cross. Remember, he was crucified on the top of a hill between two thieves. The typical cross weighed 75 to 100 pounds. After being beaten, a healthy person, Elizabeth weighs about 100 pounds. I could not carry her. I could not piggyback ride her anywhere, especially a long distance. Jesus did not have the strength to do this. So they're walking. The soldiers went to a passerby and said, hey, carry this cross. You're going to carry Jesus' cross. That passerby happened to be Simon of Cyrene. And that is why we're talking about him today. A simple act that he did was known by all. And the thing is he was just a nobody. He was a normal person. And we don't really know much about him. Okay? In Mark 15:21, it says, and they, the Roman soldiers, compelled a passerby, Simon of Cyrene, who is coming in from the country, the father of Alexander and Rufus, to carry his cross. Simon was probably a Jew who was traveling to Jerusalem for Passover. Simon was not there as an observer. He was not there as a sightseer. He was not there as a nosy person. He had no clue what was going on. He was just on his way to get to the Passover. So I guess you could say he was at the right place at the wrong time. He was the lucky one who got chosen. But he was chosen to carry the cross for Jesus. It wasn't a choice. He had to do it. They went up to him, said, you're going to carry this cross, and he carried it. He didn't say no. And if he would have said no, he probably would have been punished. You didn't have a choice. So he had to do it. What kind of effect did this have on Simon? Imagine being forced to walk with a criminal to his death sentence. You have no clue what this guy has done. You don't know what he's being crucified for, and yet you got to walk beside him and carry his cross. You are being forced to carry his method of execution. Then imagine if that man was the Christ, the Son of God that you had been waiting for. Imagine seeing how Jesus was beaten, but he didn't complain or say anything. Cross. Knowing that he was betrayed because of the jealousy of the Jewish leaders. Do you think that would have affected you to believe in him? So Simon is here. He's carrying Jesus' cross. He's in this situation that he didn't ask to be in, that he doesn't want to be a part of. Is it going to make him believe? Is this one of those light bulb moments? Is this something that's going to turn his life around? Did you notice the description of Simon in Mark 15:21 that we just read? Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus. Why was he called the father of Rufus and Alexander? This is because the Church of Rome most likely knew the two sons and thus knew this man. And remember, these are the Roman officials. These are the Romans that are doing this. These are the Romans that picked him out of the crowd. Paul mentions a Rufus in Romans 16:13. And it says, greet Rufus, chosen in the Lord, also his mother, who has been a mother to me as well. So this leads us to believe that these two sons and their mother were Christians, and thus most likely shows that Simon himself later became a Christian. So right now, when Simon's carrying this cross, he's not a believer. But yet, he is carrying the cross of a perfect human that's about ready to be crucified. Most likely by the time Paul wrote the book of Romans, Simon of Cyrene had already passed away. Thus, that's the reason they think they didn't mention him in that verse. There were also men of Cyrene present on the day of Pentecost in Acts 2, 9 through 10, who possibly part of those who were baptized after Peter's sermon. Also, believers from Cyrene were key in establishing the thriving church of Antioch in Acts 11:20. And that says, but there were some of them, men of Cyprus and Cyrene, who on coming to Antioch spoke to the Hellenists, also preaching the Lord Jesus. There's a good possibility that these men were influenced by the Simon who met Jesus on his road to the cross and then later believed in Jesus and he converted his household. So think about this. You have a non-Christian, a non-believer, carrying the cross of the perfect, sinless person. How did it change his life? Probably it led to him believing in Jesus. He sees it in his own eyes. He kind of got pulled in the situation when he really didn't want to be pulled in the situation, but he got pulled in the situation. But it ultimately turned into a good thing. He believed and he converted his household. All because someone, a soldier, grabbed him, told him, you're carrying this cross. Ain't it? What if he never would have been chosen? What if he never would have carried that cross of Jesus? Would he have ever believed? Would he ever been converted? And I want us to think about that. That is the end of my devotional. We're going to split this up in 2 parts. But I want us to think about that for a minute. Simon was picked at random to carry this cross. How many times are we picked at random to comfort somebody, to be there for somebody, to help solve a problem, to be a listening ear? And how many times has that little act of kindness changed somebody? Changed their attitude, changed the way of thinking, made them become a Christian? How many times? Even if I can think of some things that I just really didn't want to do. But looking back on it, I see the good that came from it. And what if I wouldn't have done it? Would they ever believe? Would they ever step foot in that church? What if I never invited them to church? What if I never told them what we were doing at church? Never even asked them if they went anywhere? Would they ever have walked through that door? What if I wasn't ever nice to that person that sits beside me at my job? What if I never consoled somebody who is having a bad day or just lost a family member? What if? We never know. We never know. Just like Simon, carrying that cross, he was converted. Next week, we're going to finish Simon, but I split it up because the last half of this chapter is burdens. It's all about burdens. This burden that Simon was called to bear changed his life forever. The burden of the cross changed his life forever. So next week, we're going to talk about 3 burdens that we all bear. Just like Simon, there's 3 burdens we all bear. We bear persecution. We bear one another's burdens. And we bear the burden of responsibility. So we're going to go into detail about those next week. I hope everyone has a great week. And as always, thank you for listening.